Thank you so much. I'm really excited that I'm gonna be able to be here today and explain a bit about Transkribus, what it is and what it does and how you can use it. And I think I'll just go right in and start with what we're going to talk about. So as I mentioned, we'll have a look at Transkribus, and then we're also going to have a look at the standard workflow and have a sneak peek at the advanced workflow. Doing this, I will also go right into the platform. Since Transkribus is a software, it's a bit abstract to just only talk about it, which is why I will show the functions and the basics in the platform directly. Then I'll also talk about some more features and functions that you can use Transkribus for, but this is just more of an information for you. We will not go into depth for these, otherwise we would be here for more hours than just one. And then at the end, we'll finish with some final thoughts and time for questions. But again, as was pointed out, I think we do have a Q&A where you can ask questions. My name is Helene. I'm from Austria. I'm part of the marketing and communications lead. I'm here to connect basically the platform to the people. I also just want to point out that my first language is German. English is just my second language, as you might notice. So I do apologize if I slip up and make some mistakes. If there is anything that you cannot understand or that maybe is a bit unclear, please don't hesitate to ask, and I'll do my best to explain everything very clearly. All right. Then let's get started, and I'll explain what Transkribus is and how we make your work with historical documents a breeze. Transkribus is your AI-powered ally designed to simplify your time-consuming and laborious work with historical documents. Often people who work with historical documents, they already know how to read old handwriting, but it can be quite time-consuming to manually transcribe those pages. It is quite quickly done with one page, but if you have 10 pages, 100 pages, maybe 1,000 pages, that can take up quite some time. And so we want to be here and have a tool for you that you can use to speed that up and to simplify that. Like any good tool, AI reduces the workload, but the meaning and the context are created through specialist knowledge. So we see Transkribus really as a tool to be used, and to be used with people who then also go over, and especially if we work, for example, with archivists, with historians, genealogists, they often are quite knowledgeable in the area. And so it is important to really consider Transkribus as a tool to be used in addition to the expert knowledge that you all have. So basically, Transkribus is a tool, but we started with Transkribus as a tool for text recognition and transcription, meaning that the tool can automatically transcribe historical documents, historical handwriting. But what else is important once we have these texts in digital form? And that is also searching. So Transkribus also helps with searchability and search assistance. Of course, classifying the content is also important, and you can do that. You can add the additional information to make it more informative and to add additional information and data. This can be done with labels and markings within your document. And often you don't just work with continuous text, but also with forms or tables. And so we are also able to extract this data in structured form, especially with tables and forms. You need to have the context of where the information is on the page. So this you can also do with Transkribus. So basically about using Transkribus, you can use Transkribus to convert handwritten letters, diaries, or notes. Of course, also for genealogy, especially important, the transcription of family records or other valuable historical documents. And with Transkribus, you can also do research and indexing of archive material and much more. So how does this work in practice? With Transkribus, you upload your documents to the platform, and then you can use a model. What does that mean? So we have three flexible workflows that I'll go quickly over. First is the quick text recognition. The quick text recognition needs only minimal setup to no setup and gives you a fast transcription of your documents. Then we have the standard workflow, the one that we will look at today, which is more precise, where you can already choose a model for your documents. I'll explain what a model is shortly. And then we have the advanced workflow. This gives you the highest accuracy because you're able to use a custom trained model. So the quick text recognition works in a way where you simply upload your documents, you recognize the text, and you already have the option to export and share. And this is what it looks like. So basically, you log into your account to the Transkribus platform with your free account, and this is what you can see immediately when you log in, which is the quick text recognition. Here you can drag and drop your files or browse through them in your files, and on the right side you will then have the output that you can also export. The standard workflow has an additional step. So you upload your documents as well. You do a text recognition. Here you can choose a pre-trained model, but then you also have the option to edit the output. So sometimes it can happen that there are a few mistakes with the result of the model. You can edit those and then you can export and share. The advanced workflow has an additional step, which is the model training. The model training will be important later, and I will explain exactly what that means. But for now, we'll get started with the standard workflow before it gets too complicated. So the standard workflow, as I mentioned previously, starts with the upload. So we'll start with that here as well. To understand how documents are uploaded, I also quickly want to explain how they are organized. In Transkribus, we have so-called collections. These collections are basically projects. In this instance, you can see we have one project that is a beginner's webinar, another project that is a demonstration or a workshop that we did. Within these collections are documents. You can have multiple documents in one collection. And within these documents are the pages of your document. So if your document is a letter, that can be one page, but if your document is a book, that can be hundreds of pages. Now, to upload your document, you can create a new collection. If you just created a new account, then you open that collection, or you can simply upload your images or PDFs to your collection. And I'll show you how that works right away to explain it better. So let's switch to our Transkribus platform. So here is what you see once you log in. You have your home screen with customizable button. So here we have our favorite collections. As I mentioned before, the quick text recognition right away. And I'll go into the menu here and I'll move down to our desk. So we always say, let me open the menu. We always say that the desk is where the work happens. So with the desk, you first have an overview of your favorite collections and recent documents. But if you want to create a new collection, you go to collections and you can see here the button for a new collection. I've already prepared a collection, so we'll open my collection and I can see here are the documents. As you can see, I previously mentioned that there can be a different variety, a different amount of pages per document. For example, here we have a diary with almost 200 pages, 163, but here is also one document that has only 5, 4, or 3 pages. Now, to upload new pages to my collection, I'll simply click on the upload button. And then I can drag and drop my prepared images into the upload area. You can see here that it's loading. Here you also have information of what type of formats are able to be uploaded, and also the limit of the amount of files you can upload, so the image size. And now, as we can see, upload should be able to be completed. I click on Create Document. I can choose to either sort them in alphabetical order or ignore them. In this instance, this is not relevant for me to order them in alphabetical order. But of course, if it is needed for your document to have them in the correct page order, you can choose to sort them. Then I enter my document title. In this case, I will just call it presentation. Click on submit. And now I see the pop-up here, document creation has started, and I can already see it loading on the screen. And I have my document with the 3 pages that I uploaded. Once I open it, I now have a preview of the 3 pages that I uploaded into the collection and into the document. All right, let's go back into the presentation. Here I have a screenshot, but we already saw it, how it works within the platform, so we can skip that. You also have options to organize your document. So you can add labels to your document, meaning that you can show that they are handwritten, that there is a need to still to do them, that maybe some material was damaged. And this way you can add additional information for yourself, but also for other people who are working on these documents. You can also create shortcuts and link them to other collections that you can access them from different photos as well. Of course, you can also move or copy your documents and your collections too. Now let's get to the recognition, and I'll show you now how you can use a public AI model to process your documents. So first, of course, the next step once we've uploaded is to start the automatic text recognition. But what happens with the text recognition? So during the text recognition, Transkribus converts your printed or handwritten text into digital text using existing or custom AI models. Now, what are existing AI models? Existing AI models are public models that are pre-trained and ready to use. They were pre-trained by Transkribus and are ready to use for the users. They are quite large and robust language models, therefore also easy to use because they are pre-trained. And we have different models for handwritten and for printed text. With the public models that are freely accessible with the free plan as well, we have over 250 public models available. I think actually I had a look today and it's already over 300 public models that are available. They are available for handwritten as well as printed materials and in over 30 languages. So with over 300 public models available, of course, the question often is, what does it mean that you have so many public models? Is it for how many different languages is it? What does it mean that it is for different languages? Generally speaking, we have a lot of models that are trained for one language. For example, as you can see here, on the right side, the first one that is visible is the early current emperor. This is for the German language. And here you can see that it is trained on handwritten material. So basically what you do is that you can filter the models based on a type of material that you have, and then try the public models to see which one works best. I'll explain more about that in a bit. To explain more about the public models that we have free access, here we have another example. So this one is a Spanish model. They are always trained on a large amount of data. In this instance, it's almost 40,000 pages, meaning that the model was trained on 40,000 pages. It has seen 40,000 pages of historical handwriting to be trained on. It uses then these pages as a reference when it is looking over your material. So should you have Spanish documents, you can then use this model to transcribe the Spanish handwriting into machine-readable text. To explain what the CER is, this is a reference point for you to also know which model you could use. The CER points out how accurate the model was during the training. So with a 4.8 CER, meaning character error rate, there were only 4.8 characters that were wrong during the training, meaning over 95% accuracy. So this is an indication that this should be a quite good model to use for Spanish material. We also have supermodels. These are available with full feature access, and they are the best out of the box performance models. They are large and robust. They are even larger than our usual public models. They can also be used on mixed material. So they work not on handwritten or printed text, but on handwritten and printed text, and are also often trained on multiple languages. For example, the Text Titan is trained on 7 different languages. Now, here is a screenshot that I have of the public model page, but I think we'll just go right in and I'll show you exactly in the platform how you can filter your models and how you can then also use them. So before I start using them, I just want to show you how you can filter for models and how you look for them. Because this is often a question we have with the 330 models that we have available now, is how do I find the correct one? So let's say you're working with text that is written in Dutch. You see here different filter options. For example, let's start with the language. So now I type in Dutch because I'm looking for models that have been trained on Dutch language as I want to use them on my Dutch documents. I already can see that the number of public models available went down from 330 to 22 models. Now I can add additional filters. For example, I only want models for handwritten text, and maybe I want to reduce also the century. And let's say I have documents from the 16th to the 19th century. And now it's already been reduced from 330 to 6 public models. We can see here we have, for example, the Duchess or the Text Titan. This way you can find models that are possibly suitable for the type of material that you are using or that you want to use it with. Now, to actually use it on our documents, I'll just go back to my material that I uploaded. I'll open my collection and my document. And the way that I now use the AI models is by selecting the documents that I want to transcribe. You can also select multiple documents. In this instance, I just want to transcribe this one. I now click on Process with AI. And I can now see, let me just move my Zoom window up here. I can now see this pop up, so the slide in opens. We can see that here is already a model selected. I have used that previously, but in this instance, I want to try a specific English model. So now here you can see the search bar for models, and here you can search for the models that I just showed you in the models workspace. So the models workspace was to give you an overview of all the models that you have. You can also have a look at all the details there of the models and what they can do, what they were trained on. And here you can search for the models that you want to use. Let's look now for an English model. We have here the English Eagle. It has a character error rate of 8.3. So only 8.3 characters out of 100 were wrong, which gives me an indication that it might work quite well with my documents. I select a model. In this instance, you can also, for example, choose to have another look at the model details, but we'll just go right ahead and start the text recognition. And you can see immediately that the job has started, and you also have an overview here in the job queue. So the job queue is basically just an indicator for how quickly things are processed and at what stage in the processing you are. So you can hear the document presentation that the job processing has started, that the job was created. And if I, let's see, reload the page, I should be able to see that it is progressing nicely. Let's see if the internet is also playing its part and working with me. Okay, that must be the Wi-Fi. Let's try again. There we go. All right, we can see that the state has changed from create to running, and we can also click on the title of the job, and we will see that we can now open, for example, the document. It's still processing and it's still working. So the time it takes to process these documents and to transcribe them always depends on how much work is going on in the background, how many documents are being transcribed, how many pages you are transcribing at once. As we just saw, the Wi-Fi is a little bit buggy, so it might take a few more seconds. However, I have prepared some material in advance that we can take a look at as long as this is loading. I'll just quickly have a look in the chat. I'm not sure if I haven't seen any pop-ups. No questions yet. Okay, perfect. I will just continue in that case with some documents and show you what it looks like. Okay, so I will open just this document of English records. And here I see the pages. Once I have used one of the public models, you can see here a color code being orange. This is an indication of the status of the page. We do have different statuses. If you click on the 3 points here on the bottom, you can see the status that we have. So orange is in progress, meaning that we have already started working with the document. Once you have started working on the document, done some editing, you can also change these. But basically, once the status changes from gray to orange, you know that the transcription has been finished, and you can have a look at what your document looks like. So I'll just click on the page, and this is what we can see. This is now the Transkribus editor. Here on the left side, you have an image of your uploaded document, of the document that you're working with. And on the right side, you have the output of your automatic text recognition model. Now, sometimes it can happen that mistakes sneak in because the model that you used, it was trained on a lot of pages, but it wasn't trained specifically on the pages that you are working with. So it has seen a lot of references, and it's trying to use these references to give you an output. But as you can see, there are some errors in the text that you can simply correct with the keyboard. So you can just type into, let's find maybe a spelling mistake. Can I find a spelling mistake? If I click here in the editor, I can see the reference also being highlighted on the right. But let's just say I can add here, for example, letters. I can correct the document. For some reason, I cannot find an error in here, but let's see. Maybe on a next page, I can also click here in the editor, go to the next page, and I also can see here again on the left side the document image, and on the right side the output that I can correct. Sometimes it can happen that the layout wasn't recognized correctly. Let's just hide this again. So as you can see here, there are marginalia that the model, let's say the model didn't recognize. Usually the model recognizes them. In this instance, I prepared the layout of this page to show you what you can do if the layout wasn't recognized correctly. You can edit the layout by clicking in this text field. So this is the text region, and the text region is basically the area that includes the text. And if I want to create now a marginalia, I can choose to, for example, click on Shift on my keyboard, and I'll drag the text region a bit inwards, and then I can create a separate region by clicking on Add Region. In this case, I just want to add a simple text region. I also have a visual help to see where I want to start the text region, and I start by clicking it. And now I just drag it to the end of the text region, click again, and now I have a new text region. As we can see, it was split into two different regions. However, because previously the text recognition happened for this entire text at once, we might need to run another text recognition. Let's just go back into selection mode and also select this text region. Again, separately. We can also choose to split lines. So sometimes, because this was seen as an entire text region, it kind of merged the marginalia with the text here. But we can also split the line by selecting the line and then clicking V on the keyboard. So V for vertical, and then I click on where I want to split it. And if I select now the lines again, I can see that these are two different lines. I can do the same for the text region as well. For example, if I want to have this part of the text as two paragraphs, I press H on the keyboard for horizontal, click on it, and I can see immediately that a separate region was created. Let me save this process right now. And what I can do now, also, for example, if I wasn't happy with the transcription result, I can process it again with AI. So I'll simply use the English Eagle again, for example, click on Start Recognition, and the process will start again. And in this instance, once I've now started the process of text recognition again, it should now have the output where the text within the marginalia is also within a different region in the text editor part of this document. Now let's see if it is also working. We can see that it is loading, and we can see perfectly how it changed. Now region 1, being this region, has the correct content. To give a better indication of what type of information I have on the page, we can use tags. So what are tags? We have structure tags, and the structure tags help define the hierarchy structure of a document. So they can be used to mark titles, heading, paragraphs as well, and also marginalia. So this kind of helps preserve the original layout and formatting of the document, and that also means that the meaning and the context are kept and are retained. So here we want to have the context of, for example, paragraph. So we will click on the text area, the text field, then right-click our mouse, and we can see here, assign structure type. Now we can assign the structure type and the structure tag. In this case, we will select paragraph. For the marginalia, let's see, we can see that something very small appeared. If I scroll up, okay, I can see paragraph here. I'll show you in a bit how you can make this larger. To do the same with the marginalia, I do the same here with this text field again. I select it by clicking on it, then right-click with the mouse, assign structure type, and then click marginalia. And so I immediately see that region 1 is the marginalia, region 2 is a paragraph. You can also add tags in the text. So the text tags are used to identify and mark specific text elements, for example, names or dates or places or other information within the text content. And this labeling can be useful to create a database, for example, but also to just convey more context. So for example, here I have a name. I need to make sure that the tagging is enabled. I can see that because it has a slight gray backlight. I now mark the name, and I can see here suggested tags, and I tag it as person. You can also connect it with a Wikidata ID, or for example, here we have a date. So I select the date and I can add the tag for date here. If you work with a document that doesn't have the tags that you just see here, you can simply go to settings, and in the settings you have some configuration options. First of all, let's go to the tags. Here we have a preset suggestion of what tags might be useful, but you can also edit tags in the collection settings and always add more. If, for example, you also want to add a tag for distances or for currency, you can do so, of course, and by doing so, it will also appear then in the editor. What you can, let me reopen that again. What you can also configure in the image is, for example, label size. So as I can see here, this label is quite small, but I kind of want to see what label was added to the text. And I can just simply use the slider to make the label size bigger. Let's see if it is working. There we go. There we go. Okay. And now, as you saw, the label also appears bigger in the image. So this way, by using these configuration settings, you can basically adjust the editor to fit your needs. You can choose to change colors, change the label size, you can choose to show the regions, the baselines that you're working with, or you can also choose to hide them. Two other things that we always got feedback on that were very important for us to add is once the layout editor and the layout tree for the text. So sometimes if the lines are switched, you can simply drag and drop the lines into the correct order. And you can also do the same for entire regions. If I collapse a region, I can also switch the regions around. This way, you can very easily change the lines into the correct order should they be in the wrong order. If you're working with other people, you also have the option to add comments to your documents. This is very helpful to just give some sort of additional information for the other people that you're working with, for the text, for the transcription, additional information that you might need to convey just for this specific page. Now let me have a look if we have some questions. I can see that there is one question about the marginalia. I'll just read it aloud. It says, on the marginalia of the document, the text was correct, but not in the order as indicated in the actual document. Is there a comment, and do you simply manually alter the AI process text? I think maybe I already answered that with the layout tree. So generally, it can sometimes happen that the text was not in the order as indicated on the original document. You can then simply change that with the layout tree and put it in the correct order. Usually, if the text is written very beautifully here in the correct order, it should not happen that the lines are messed up. If you mean that the text regions are not in the order indicated as the actual document, that can happen simply because, for example, that the marginalia and the paragraph are processed at a different time. So in that instance, I would suggest to use the layout tree to correct it. The second question is, if I use Transkribus with a marriage record in the old German script, I see results in German. How can I then get a translation in English? That is a very good question. So the Transkribus platform is a platform for transcription, not translation. So the output that you have here, you can copy paste into a translator. However, I can share some very exclusive information with you, is that we are indeed actually working on also getting the possibility to having translation in the platform. So this is something that that is quite new, that we haven't been sharing for a long time, but I'm not sure exactly what the timeline is, but we are working on also adding the option to translate your document then into a different language. This will be optional. So this is not something that will be done automatically, because with the transcription, it is often important to preserve the exact meaning or the exact text of the original document. However, in especially those cases where it is important to also translate the text, this is why we want to offer also this function that you can not only transcribe, but also translate. So this is very new, very exciting, but I'm excited that I can share this information with you. And thank you for asking that question, because that was a great hook to share that information. So thank you for that. I think with that, we can move on with the presentation. And one thing that I want to show you before I leave the editor is something that we have also added just, I think, half a year ago, and that is the option to compare different models. So previously, we also said, okay, how do I find the correct model for my documents? And I showed you how you can filter for the different models. But then maybe you have used a model and you're not quite happy with the results of the model. And then, as I showed you before, you can start a new model model recognition, new AI recognition within a document. So you do that, but it's even worse than the previous one. In that case, you can click on this watch clock icon, I think is the correct term, and you can see the version history. With the version history, you can scroll down, and here you can see, for example, when you have used different models. And to compare the different models and see which actually gave a better result, you can click on the three dots, click on compare with current version, and now you have a visual indication of where the model performed better. I can also, let's go maybe for a bit further back. Let's see here, compare with current version. And here you can see even more instances of where there were differences in how the models performed. If you think that this version was better, you can then click on restore this version to restore it. You can also switch the colors depending on what you deem to be correct or more correct to give you a better visual indicator or color indicator of what had changed. So this is also how you can compare different models and kind of see which model works better with the materials that you have. All right, also important to then save the changes of your document. And then let's have a look at our presentation and continue with it. Go through. So using public models, we have now just to maybe go over what we did look at right now. So we had a look at the editing, what happens after the text is processed with AI, that it is split up into the, in the presentation here. You can also use full text search. So because you are using Transkribus to create machine readable output, I'll just quickly pause. I think the internet was lagging. There we go. So because you are using Transkribus to create a machine readable text from handwritten text, you also can search this machine readable text. This is especially useful when you in this screenshot, you can see that there are no collections with that name, there are no documents with that name, but there are 100 instances where this term is found in the full text in your documents. And then you can simply click on the result of the full text search result, and you have an overview of all the pages where London as a term was used. And this makes it very easy to search all export. So you can export your documents and share your transcriptions further. The question often is how does that work? Can I only use it on Transkribus? How do I get the transcription down? And you can download it and export it in different formats. To do that, you can select the documents or the pages, similar to when you wanted to process it, and then click on the action button and select export. This is what you will see. You will see the different export options. These are the standard export options, so images, PDF as well, page XML, and you also, with the Scholar plan, so with the full feature access, have additional export options. For example, if you are working with tables and you want to download it also as a table, you have the option to export it as a spreadsheet format. I will show you what that looks like in the platform as well. Let me quickly show you what that looks like. So once I am happy with my transcription and I want to download it, as shown in the presentation, I can then select my document, click on the action button, click on export, and now you have the export options that we just showed. Once you have selected the export option and you click on Start Export, you will see that you have a pop-up where it says that the download link is sent via email, and this is how you will get the export of your transcriptions. Now, the question is, what do I do when the public models fall short? What do I do if the result of the public models wasn't to my satisfaction? I'm not really happy. There were too many mistakes. What can I do then? And in this case, what you can do is train a custom text recognition model. So we are talking again about choosing the right approach. First, we had a look at the public models, and now we'll have a look at the custom models. So the question is, when use a public model and when use a custom model? So when are custom models useful? The custom models are useful when you are working with regional characteristics, so specific handwriting, but also it is helpful for individual applications because the custom models, they are adaptable to your material because they are trained on your material. So just to go over it again, where the public models are pre-trained and ready to use, they are quite easy to use, they are large and robust, but that also means because they are pre-trained, they might not really work the best way for your specific documents. The custom models can be tailored because they are trained with your material and therefore have a higher accuracy. Because they are trained with your material, they are adaptable to your material, and you control what data goes into the model. And they can be therefore also fine-tuned to your project. What does that mean? That means that we have an additional step in the workflow where we first need to create this custom model, which is the model training. The custom AI model training uses specific examples to help the Transkribus AI to accurately recognize and understand the writing in your training data. And these specific examples are called ground truth. So this is what you need to prepare. With the model training, we have different types of model training. We have the text recognition model training, but also layout model trainings. I will now explain the text recognition model training. So for the training workflow, we recommend to first use a public model for pre-recognition. This will save you time because you don't need to manually transcribe it. You just need to accurately correct the text, and you can do that in the editor. Then save these pages and you save them as ground truth, and they will be the basis for your first training. Transcribed text paired with their images. To now train a custom AI model, you select all those pages that you have. We generally recommend to use at least 50 pages of ground truth, meaning at least 50 pages of correctly transcribed material to train your model. Here you can see that I have selected 136 pages. Of course, the more pages you use, the more accurate your model will be because it's used as a reference when using it on more of your material. So you select the pages and you again use the action button symbol, and then you see the option to choose text recognition model. So you click on text recognition model to start the model training. Those 136 pages are your training data. So these are the pages that the model is trained on. This is the pages that the model uses as reference. The next is the validation data. These pages are not used for training the model, but for testing its accuracy during the training. So this basically means that this is the group of examples that allow for a neutral evaluation of the model, basically. So they're not included in the model training itself, but they're used to calculate the accuracy during the training process. So specifically, these pages that are used as validation data, and these are selected automatically, as you can see if you tried, so you don't have to select them manually. These are selected automatically. These pages are used to compare the results and to then also calculate the accuracy, meaning the CER or character error rate. So the character error rate that I previously mentioned, which indicates how many characters out of 100 were correctly transcribed during the training. In the model setup, the only things that are left to do is add a name, description, and further information about your model. You can also add an image to show kind of what material you were working with. And then the next step is starting the training. So basically, just to go back real quickly, the part that takes the most time to train a custom model using a public model, correcting the text with the help of the editor, saving those pages as ground truth, and then you simply go through these steps. Accurately recognized is actually accurately transcribed. Once you have trained your model, you can then evaluate your model. So again, here we have the CER, the character error rate, which shows the accuracy during the training. Below, I have an image of the training curve. So this kind of shows you the process of how well the training went during the training of your custom model. And this again gives you an indication of how well the model will perform with your documents. In this instance, I just put another example up there of a model with a character error rate of 4.3, meaning that we have again an accuracy of over 95%. Now, with CER and training data, this is all a lot of information, which is why I put some training data estimates in this handout and in this presentation. So this gives you a bit of a guidance with what the character error rate should be and how much training data, how many pages we recommend using to train a custom model. So because pages are a good start, and we recommend to look for a character error rate of 0.5 to 2%. If you have one single, to aim for a character error rate of 2 to 4%. With several hands, we recommend around 50 pages per hand. So that can then be up to over. Generally, we say to aim for a character error rate below 10%. Now, simply correcting the transcriptions in the document editor does not improve the model. So if you have trained a model and you use it now on your documents and you say, okay, this is better than the public model, but it's still not really what I'm aiming for, the thing to do now is not to just correct it in the editor, and training workflow is to first have the recognition within your model, so the first model that you trained, then correct more text just with the new. I think I got cut out.
Yes,
Hello?
very briefly. Hello.
Hi, I'm sorry about that. I'll share my screen again.
Thank you. Yeah, your Wi-Fi is pretty
There we go.
spotty there.
Oh no, can you hear me okay? I can also switch it to a manual hotspot if that is better. Let me change that right now. That's better? Is this better?
I think so.
Okay. Apologies. I'm so sorry about that. But I hope that we have fixed the issue now. And I will jump back to the point of the presentation where we talked about retraining a model. I'll now have a look into the Q&A. Let's see.
I was going to say, if you want to stop sharing for a minute and maybe answer the questions in the Q&A and then talk about what you had in the rest of the slides, I think that's what's actually clogging up the Wi-Fi,
yes,
is that the sharing the screen is actually making it harder.
That might be the problem. Then I'll just leave my camera on so that it's not just a black screen maybe. Then I'll have a look at the chat. So let me look at the questions. The first question is, what can we do for free? Are there different levels of subscription? Yes, there are different levels of subscription. We have a free plan, and in the free plan, all the basic functions and features are included. So meaning that public models is included in that, and you can even start model training. The Scholar plan is then our full feature access, and in the full feature access you have access to, for example, also the supermodels and advanced layout training. So this is something that I have further in my Transkribus presentation. If you want to look under more features and functions, we have, for example, baseline models, which are helpful to accurately recognize text lines. This is especially helpful when lines are slanted or skewed. In this instance, we do recommend to use a layout model separately from a text recognition model. So to first use a layout model and then use a text recognition model afterwards. We also have trainable field models. They can be trained to automatically recognize and mark certain layout components of the document, for example, in forms. This is very helpful for forms because sometimes only certain part of the forms are interesting. And then we also have table models. I just briefly mentioned them previously, and they can be trained to automatically recognize the rows and columns. And you can also extract tabular data with Excel files and export Excel files. So these functions are then included in the Scholar plan, and starting with the Scholar plan. We have the information about the different pricing plans on our website as well, under plans and pricing. Then the next question is this all a free account or pay for some options? So I think with that, I have probably answered that question as well. The free plan is available for all, so this will also stay free. Under the free plan, there are 50 credits available each month, meaning you can process up to 50 handwritten pages per month with the free plan. The Scholar plan starts at 99 euros a year. I'd have to say how that converts to dollars. And that includes then 900 credits per year for the 99 euros a year. And with that, as I mentioned, you have all the features included. We also have team plans. So if you work with a team, there's the option to use the team plan. It has also more user seats and more options to work together within the platform. And of course, we also have an organization plan for big organizations. And we also have an API, so we also work together with institutions to use our API. Then the next question is, can photos be inserted afterwards? Yes, they can be inserted afterwards. So you can always add more photos and more pages to your documents. And you can simply do so once you open your documents. You should be able to see the option to add pages, similar to how we added pages in the beginning. The next question is, how do you tell Transkribus that the page you want to transcribe is not a basic book page, but for instance, structured in columns, like most church record, for instance, you might have called it tables. We do have, I think, one public table model available. However, if the layout is quite specific, I would recommend training a table model because often the table structure is quite different. So it cannot necessarily be used for all the tables. But you can use a table model, train a table model yourself. If you're interested in training a table model, I would recommend to go to our YouTube account, to our YouTube playlist called webinars. And we have our own separate webinar about training a table model, where we explain step by step how to train the model, what to pay attention to, and how to use it on your documents. It is a 1-hour webinar that I would recommend to use. We also have more information on our help center. But I think in this instance, it might be interesting to look at training table models. If it is only for one page, you can also draw a table in the editor. So to just draw the layout manually yourself first, create a table in the editor. I think we also show that in this webinar recording of the table models. And then use the text recognition model afterwards. And then also the output should be in the text area of your editor in table form. And I hope that answers this question as well. There is one more question. How well do the models work with varying Kurrentschrift penmanship styles? This is a really good question. So we do have different models that are for different styles as well, handwriting styles as well. We also have the super models, which are the best out of the box models for mixed writing material. In this case, I would suggest to try the models out. Maybe try a model for Kurrent. We have a model called Kurrent Emperor, I think it is called. And as it was trained on varying Kurrentschrift penmanship styles, it might also give a good output and a good transcription for varying Kurrentschrift penmanship styles. If it doesn't work, I would recommend to, if you have the free account, you can try a 2-week free trial of the Scholar account, and then use the 2-week free trial of the Scholar account to test the super models. During this trial phase, you can really see what added value the supermodels and the other features have. And then you can decide, okay, is maybe the Courant Import sufficient for the documents that I'm working with, or should I maybe invest in the Scholar plan because there's really some added value. It is way better. The result is way better. I'm saving way much more time with the supermodels. So I would recommend to try those two things out. And I hope that answers the question as well. Are there any more questions? Otherwise, I can slowly start wrapping it up.
I was going to say, it looks like we got through the questions. I don't know if you noticed, but I've been sharing my screen periodically with some of the slides as you've been talking about them. I'll pull this back up really quick.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
It's not perfect because it's in the PDF form, but I was able to pull up these as you were talking about them. Did you want to talk about any of the others before we wrap up?
Thank you. If you scroll up a little bit to final thoughts and time for questions, maybe I think it could be interesting to, because I talked a bit about Transkribus and what it does, and maybe these are just some final thoughts and to point out in what challenges Transkribus can be helpful. So one thing is, of course, more time for the content. I mentioned it previously. Manual transcription is time consuming, and Transkribus supports the automatic processing to save time. Then the next thing is improved access to historical documents. They're often difficult to read for the untrained eye and can be damaged by frequent use, and Transkribus supports that by providing easy access to all documents where they are digitized, but also readable and searchable. And especially with AI tools, I know AI is a big buzzwords nowadays. Some people are quite unsure of it, how to get started. Is it something where you need a lot of technical knowledge? But with Transkribus, there's a really low threshold access without installation. And we have a lot of resources to help you get started even without IT experience. So that should be an easy way to get started. And of course, if you use other big LLMs, they sometimes just start to fantasize and come up with new information that isn't even in the text. And Transkribus really has AI models that gives you high quality output with existing models that is trained on historical documents. And to maybe, because I'm saying a lot of we, to just at the end kind of explain who we are. So Transkribus is a cooperative, meaning that the distribution, our whole goal is purpose before profit. Everything that comes in terms of money is put back in right into the development of the Transkribus platform, and distribution is excluded by statutes. It has started as a university project, so the community and the users and the research has always been at the heart of Transkribus, and it shows that we really try to make a tool that is used in historical, in genealogy, and in archivistical settings, and to make a tool that actually helps improve the work with those documents. We have a lot of institutions that work with us, universities, archives, but also individual members in over 35 countries. And yes, at the heart of Transkribus, our mission is to provide the best tools for making history accessible. And I think I don't want to take any much more of your time. We already are a bit over an hour already, but I think that wraps it up quite nicely.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I know there were a lot of questions, and so people got those answered, and I appreciate that. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and edit this and put it on the YouTube page so people can then rewatch and take a look at the resources and perhaps have other questions. So they may be reaching out. So thank you, Helena, very much.
Thank you so much for this opportunity to speak here. Again, sorry for the unstable internet connections. If there was any information that wasn't answered, we have a lot more resources on YouTube, on our help center. As this was limited to 1 hour, I tried to go over the most important things. But of course, once you start working with Transkribus, many more questions will come up. So feel free to have a look at the help center or reach out to our help desk team. And thank you so much for having me. And thank all of you for our lovely questions and that you took the time to be here with us.